Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I've got some exciting projects where we're taking 2 unfinished wood tags and 1 interchangeable farmhouse style frame, all from our website, and turning them into beautiful 2-for-1 home decor pieces. I'll be using a variety of my favorite crafting supplies, including IOD Transfers and Stamps, Roycycled Treasures decoupage paper, fusion mineral paint, and essential stencils, Stencils. So grab your supplies and let's get creative together. This is going to be a fun one. I'm Cindy, my husband is Chris. Welcome to CnC DIY Factory. If you love DIY as much as I do, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new project. For project 1, we'll be using our 9 by 5.5 inch unfinished wood tag. This tag can be found on our website at CnCDIYFactory.com. I'm using the Minwax water-based stain in antique jade and verdigris. The verdigris is a beautiful green that can be used year-round, and the antique jade is a beautiful spring green. I'm starting by applying the verdigris as a base on this wood tag. I want to do a blending technique with the antique jade to lighten up the center of it. I want the edges to be the darker green, and I want the center to be the lighter green, but I don't want you to be able to see where they meet. Minwax water-based stain also dries very quickly. However, you can use a heat gun to speed up the drying process. Once this side is dry, I'm going to flip it over and we're going to stain the back side with the pure white from Minwax. To give this wood tag a little more age, I'm going to use the IOD Vintage Textures stamp, and there's 4 stamps in there. I'm going to be using the Crackle stamp along with the IOD Stone Gray ink. I don't want the crackle to go across the entire tag, I just want it in random areas, so I'm just gently applying the stamp in random areas across the entire tag on both sides and the edges. On this side of our 2-for-1 project, I'm going to be using our Roycycled Treasures decoupage tissue paper called Burlap Roses. If you're looking for this paper, you can contact my friend Sandra at midwestcharm.co and she can ship it right to your door. I'm using DIY liquid patina as my decoupage medium, which is my favorite decoupage medium. I like to start with a starter strip to anchor my paper down, and I mist my paper to make sure that the fibers relax and I can smooth it out with my paintbrush. And I'll work in sections across the tag. Once the tissue paper has completely dried, I'll take my finger sander and sand off the edges to get rid of the excess paper. And then I'm going to take this pokey tool and I'm going to poke a hole where the hole in the tag is, and then push a paintbrush through to open that up, and then use my finger sander to sand off the excess. To give this tag just a little more vintage charm, I'm going to be using Essential Stencils stencil called Country Roads and Vintage Soul. I'm using fusion mineral paint in Woodwick for stenciling, and I'm showing you here how much paint you should have on your paintbrush, on your stencil brush. Very little paint is needed to stencil, and if you have too much, it will cause wavy lines and bleed through on your stencil. So make sure you have a dry brush. I like to swirl my stencil brush across the top of the stencil, not putting any pressure on it, allowing it just to apply a little bit of paint at a time. Now for the green side of our 2-for-1 tag, I'm going to be using IOD's Lover of Flowers transfer set. This transfer set is the perfect set of transfers for a vintage vignette. I chose the pink rosebud with the typography for the back of this tag. Absolutely love this transfer set. If you need to find it for yourself, you can contact my friend Sandra at midwestcharm.co or Sonnet at Sonnet's Garden Blooms. It's very simple to apply a transfer. You simply peel off the backing, place your transfer on your surface, and rub across it with your transfer tool. Now that both sides of our 2-for-1 tag are complete, it's time to seal it. I'm going to use the DIY clear wax, and I'm going to follow that up with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark. And here is our finished 2-for-1 tag. I absolutely love the vintage sole with the burlap roses from Roycycled Treasures, and that IOD pink rosebud is just gorgeous on that green background. This finished vintage tag would look perfect in any vintage vignette. And you can flip it around to the other side for a fresh new look. In Project 2, we're going to be using our interchangeable farmhouse-style round frame. This can be found on our website at CnC DIY Factory.com. I'll be using the Fusion Mineral Paint in Acadia Pear to paint the back of this round frame. I like to use the Fusion Mineral Paint because it has a built-in sealer, and therefore I will not have to seal this project when I'm finished. For the round insert as well as the cutout circle frame, I'll be painting those with Fusion Mineral Paint in Victorian lace. When applying paint to the round cutout frame, I will work from the middle to the edge in order to keep the paint from going over the side of the circle. The interchangeable round farmhouse style frame has score lines to assist you when adhering the round cutout frame. On this side of our 2-for-1 interchangeable project, I will be using the Fusion Mineral Paint in Cathedral Taupe. These interchangeable round farmhouse style frames come with one blank insert for you to add your personal touch. There are also other inserts available on our website for you to add to this frame for a quick seasonal change. I will be applying IOD transfers to both sides of this round insert. On the side with the Victorian lace, I chose one of these beautiful red roses from the Collage des Fleurs transfer by IOD, along with the typography from the Rose Botanical transfer. To apply a transfer, you simply peel off the backing, apply your transfer, and then rub over it using your transfer tool. I like to rub over the entire transfer once, and then I go back and I find a corner, usually the lower left-hand corner, and I just work around the entire image, rubbing the transfer off of the carrier sheet and onto my surface. I usually go around the outside edge to make sure I don't miss any small details, and then pull the transfer sheet or the carrier sheet off, flip it over, and burnish it into my surface. When transferring the text, it takes just a little more time, so be patient with it and don't pull it up too soon. But if you do pull your carrier sheet back too soon, you can always lay it back down, rub over the top of it, and transfer your image to your surface. On the other side of this round insert, where I have already painted the Cathedral Taupe, I will be using the IOD Katharina transfer. Now the Fusion Mineral Paint has a sealer built into it, so the paint does not need to be sealed. However, these transfers should be sealed. Today I will be using the DIY Big Top to seal both sides of this round insert. Before using the Big Top, I highly recommend stirring it first. As you can see here, there is a separation of the ingredients in the Big Top. This needs to be stirred gently to ensure that the top coat is smooth before applying it to your projects. Our interchangeable farmhouse-style round frame not only comes with a blank insert, but it also comes with an easel. I will be using the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark to both stain and seal the easel, as well as the back of this round frame. And here is our interchangeable farmhouse-style round frame with easel for our second 2-for-1 project. This frame is so stylish and simplistic, yet perfect to customize for any home decor, with the bonus of being interchangeable for the changing of the seasons. For our third and final project today, I will be using our large unfinished wood tag. This tag is a 16 by 7 wood tag, and it can be used for a door tag as well. This can be found on our website at CnC DIY Factory.com. I will be using the Minwax water-based stain in navy blue. I will also be using the pure white to blend into this navy blue to bring a bit of a light source to the center of this tag. When using the Minwax water-based stains and blending them together, you'll want to make sure you have a water mister handy because you want a moist edge to help blend and smooth the stain so that you don't see any sharp edges or lines. The Minwax water-based stains can be found at Lowe's and Menards, and they will tint it to whatever color you want right there at the paint counter. I will continue to use my water mister and the stain until I have the blended consistency that I'm looking for. Once I have the top completely blended, I'm going to go to the sides and I'll apply the navy along the edges of this tag. The Minwax water-based stain dries very quickly, but you can use a heat gun to hurry up the drying process. Once this front side is done, I'm going to flip it over and we're going to do the back side for our 2-for-1 project. For this side of the tag, we're going to start with the Colton Blue by Minwax. And then we're going to add in some of the navy around the outside edge to give it a bit of a shadow. Once we have that shadow added, I'm going to add in the pure white to the center to bring in a bit of a light source. Remember to keep your water mister handy because you want that moist edge so that you can blend these colors seamlessly. Now it's time to add the fun. I'm going to be using the IOD Lost Garden Transfer. I only want a portion of this transfer sheet, so I'm going to kind of measure out with my fingers where the edge of the tag is. Then I'll grab my black Sharpie marker and I'm going to draw a line along the edge and around the flowers where I will cut this out. I have a hard time remembering where I want to cut, so this helps me a great deal. Once I have my transfer cut out and I have it laid out exactly where I want it on my board, I'm going to use a piece of masking tape just to hold it in place. Then I'm going to lift up part of the carrier sheet to release the backer, and I'm going to trim off part of that backer so that I can lay that carrier sheet or the transfer onto my surface, and then I can lift up the rest of it and pull the backer off. This helps me to keep my placement right where I want it. Now I can get to work transferring this beautiful image to my tag. This image is very, very detailed, and my surface is very dry. That is the one thing you have to make sure is that your surface is very, very dry. It took me about 15 minutes to apply this transfer to this tag. There is so much detail. Just take your time and go slow. And if you miss a spot, just lay your carrier sheet back down, rub over it, and your transfer will transfer. Once you've completed the transfer process, just make sure you've burnished your transfer into your surface. Either use your hand or you can use the back of the carrier sheet. Sometimes I like to take a very light sanding sponge and just gently run over the top of the transfer. One of the things I love about the Lost Garden transfer is that it kind of symbolizes life. It has the thorns and the brambles among the flowers, but if you look closely, there are blackberries. These blackberries are the sweet parts that have to be found. Essential Stencil has a Stencil of the Month Club subscription, and this stencil is from the March 2024 release, and it simply says, "Life is short, make it sweet." I am using the Fusion Mineral Paint in Victorian Lace to apply this stencil. Now for the other side of our 2-for-1 door tag. I'm going to switch this one up. I'm going to lay this one horizontally rather than vertically. And I'm going to start with the IOD Veranda stamp using the Stone Gray ink. The Stone Gray ink is a very subtle color. It is great for the background, and you can't really see it being applied to the stamp. The IOD thin mounts make it so easy to be able to see through the stamp and line it up perfectly. For this side of the door tag, I'll be using another Essential stencil. This one is called Vintage Garden. And I'm using the same Fusion Mineral Paint in Victorian Lace to apply the words on this stencil. Something that I haven't shown you previously is when I do a stencil, I like to paint in the bridges on the stencil. It helps it to look a little less like a stencil. Now that I have the words completely done, all the bridges are painted in, I'm going to reposition that same stencil and I'm going to stencil over the hummingbirds and the swirly on the bottom and the flowers. And I'm going to use the Fusion Mineral Paint in Woodwick as a base coat. To stencil in the hummingbirds and the flowers, I'm going to use a variety of colors from the Master's Touch Heavy Body Acrylic Pearlized Paints. Once I have finished with all of my stenciling and it is completely dry, I will go back over both sides with a coat of Big Top. The Fusion Mineral Paint does not need to be sealed in, but the transfer does. And here is our 2-for-1 Life is Short, Make It Sweet and Hummingbird Lane door tag. I would love to know what you think of these projects. I have had so much fun creating these for you. And I hope you have found some tips and tricks and some inspiration in my projects today. And here's our final reveal with all 3, make that 6 projects together. For more inspiration, come follow me on Facebook. I do a live Facebook post every Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. Central. We have a lot of fun. Love to have you join me over there. But for now, keep practicing random acts of crafting, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.